Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
What you'll hear are adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And These Are Your Stories. So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. One more thing. You just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
I like those.
Don't we all? They are like little slices of heaven.
With a cherry on top and rainbow sprinkles.
Yes, they are. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, how does Dream Girl look today, Willie?
She's still the best horse in this track, Mr. Hillary.
How long have you been handling her, Willie?
Ever since you bought her, don't you remember?
I'm paying you a great deal of money to train these horses of mine. When do they start paying off?
Well, you can't expect a winner in every race, Mr. Hillary.
I'm familiar with the law of averages. That's why I've asked my question.
If you don't like the way I've been taking care of your stable, you can get yourself another trainer.
Not so fast. We have a contract.
You're a liar. Break it.
No. You've been a trainer for 20 years. You've been with my stable for 2. And in that period of time, you've made your worst record. What I'm trying to do is figure out why. Where's the answer?
You don't buy your horses right. I got bad horses to work with. Dream Girl's your best one. See? He agrees with me.
Yeah, very touching. But since you can't accept a subtle hint, suppose I come to the heart of what I'm talking about.
What do you mean?
Simply, Willie, that you've been doctoring up my horses. I've got proof, and I'm going to see you put away for more years than you've been racing.
Oh, no, you're not.
Put down that shoe, you fool!
Sure, I'll put it down. Oh! So long, Hillary. The race is over.
When did you find the body here in the stable, Willie?
Right before the first race, I was coming to look over Dream Girl before she was posted.
Where was the body lying?
There, by the door. There's a pile of straw almost covering it.
Why do you suppose Dream Girl attacked Mr. Hillary?
I don't know. I've always noticed she got sort of restless whenever he come in the stable.
Look at the marks on Hillary's skull, Willie. Notice the imprint of the heels on his chin and cheeks, and the mark at the top of the shoe on his forehead.
She really must have struck out at him.
Where's the horse now?
In the next stall.
Mind if I look at her?
Go right ahead. She's in here.
Hello, girl. Hey, there's blood all over her right hind hoof.
Yeah, I seen it there before, but I left it alone for you to look at.
How long did you wait to call me after you discovered Hillary's body, Willie?
I dashed to the nearest phone. It didn't waste a minute.
Where'd you find the horse?
In the next stall with the body.
And you've nothing else to tell me?
Of course not. What else could that be?
A confession, Willie, as to how you murdered Hillary.
How does the inspector know that Willie, Dream Girl's trainer, killed his employer? In just a moment, we'll know, but first...
I've always wondered why they call some of these mysteries.
I think you are referring to the fact that we witnessed the murder.
Yep, we knew we did it all along.
The question is, how did the detective know?
Does it really matter?
No, but we do have to fill this musical interlude.
And now we've done that.
Yes, we have.
And now, back to our story.
Hey, you crazy inspector, you can see for yourself that Dream Girl killed Hillary. Look at the imprint of the horseshoe in his head.
I did look at the imprint, Willie. That's all I need to send you to the chair. As a man who's spent his life around horses, Willie, you should have known better. A horse always kicks up with its hind hoof, Willie, not down. Therefore, if Dream Girl had attacked Hillary, the imprint of her heels would have been embedded in the forehead and not in his chin.
Well, I'm sure I mean...
Yeah, it's all right, Willie. I know what you mean. You killed Hillary with one of Dream Girl's shoes. Perhaps this will teach you a lesson, Willie. Never try to pin a murder rap on a horse.
I have to point out something.
Oh, and what might that be?
If Hillary were on the ground, the strike would have been from the top.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Do you think it is too late to save poor Willie?
Well, these mysteries were recorded in the 1940s, so yeah, it's too late.
Bloody hell.
What's that you said?
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today is a banner day here on the show. We have another round of ghost stories with the famous author, Sylvia Schultz. This time on Ghost Stories with Sylvia, we tackle history and celebrities. Did you know that Ron's Amazing Stories has a blog too? Each week I take keyboard in hand and present various topics ranging from your stories, spotlights on people, and sometimes I even preview upcoming podcasts. The blog publishes every Tuesday and has a decent following, but being greedy, I want you to read it too. You can find it by heading to the main website and clicking on the blog banner. How about that? Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, computer, Kindle. Whatever you have, you can listen to Audible on it. So what am I listening to? Unsolved Mysteries of World War II by Michael Fitzgerald. From the Nazi ghost train and Tokyo rose to the day Los Angeles was attacked by phantom fighters. This book takes you to some very strange events that have never been fully explained. Here is the introduction to the book.
World War II is one of the best documented eras in history. Over the course of time, secret archives have been opened that have shed new light on previously doubtful events. DNA testing now makes it possible to positively identify uncertain remains, and there are far fewer unknown facts about the conflict than in the 1980s. In spite of our extensive knowledge of the period, many aspects of it are still rather unclear. A large number of these mysteries remain enigmas, while in other cases, probable explanations are now available. Unsolved Mysteries of World War II deals with a wide range of topics. Did a German woman pilot fly to New York and Michigan, for example? And why did 2 German submarines disappear for 2 months after the end of the war before finally surrendering to Argentina? Another incident, the 1939 bomb plot in a Munich beer cellar, has attracted a variety of conspiracy theories. Unsolved Mysteries unravels the story and separates fact from myth, propaganda, and downright fabrication to suggest the most plausible explanation for the failed assassination attempt on Hitler. Unsolved Mysteries examines stories from Britain, America, Russia, France, Germany, Italy, North Africa, and Japan. While doing so, it considers several mysterious deaths and the possible survival of various people, including Hitler and Bormann. Espionage during the war involved considerable disinformation by both the Allied and the Axis powers. The Welser affair, where a number of Dutch resistance fighters were murdered in the closing stages of the war, remains a baffling mystery. Whether they were killed by Nazis, collaborators, or Dutch anti-communists is still unclear. Police officers who attempted to investigate the murders received death threats. The Battle of Los Angeles involved considerable military activity against what were believed to be Japanese aircraft. The theory that Los Angeles was under attack by enemy aircraft has long been disproved, but the true nature of the events remains uncertain. World War II saw looting on an epic scale, and the whereabouts of many of these lost treasures is still unknown. For instance, the famous Amber Room, presented to Peter the Great by the King of Prussia, vanished at the end of the war. Was it destroyed by bombing and shelling, stolen by the Nazis, or removed by the Russians? The whereabouts of the Nazi blood flag and Hitler's globe immortalized by Charlie Chaplin in the film The Great Dictator, also remain unknown. Nazi gold reserves held by the Reichsbank were plundered too, by different people and groups including the SS, the Red Army, and the US military. Their present location is still an enigma. The World Trade Fair in 1940 saw a mysterious explosion which killed 2 policemen. Responsibility for planting the bomb has never been satisfactorily established. Military mysteries include the unexpected collapse of the French army in 1940, the failure of German tanks to advance against Dunkirk, and the lack of adequate protection for and communication with the US Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. Unsolved Mysteries of World War II deals with these and many other secrets of the war. Hess's flight to Britain and the actor Leslie Howard's death in a civilian plane shot down by the Luftwaffe are well known. Other stories and unsolved mysteries are less familiar. While dealing with many incidents of major importance, Unsolved Mysteries also examines more minor events during the war. There are still questions about many aspects of World War II that remain unanswered. In some cases, probable explanations exist, but other secrets have never been revealed. The truth about them may never be known.
During World War II, many deeply mysterious events took place in the fog and chaos of conflict. These were classified, hushed up, and kept from the public eye. And yet, with recent opening of secret archives, new light has been shed on these strange events. This brilliant audiobook fills you in on some of these unsolved cases, teasing fact from fiction. And Unsolved Mysteries of World War II can be yours today. All you have to do is head to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can have it for free. Here is what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook in 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This also gains you access to the included catalog, which is updated constantly with new titles. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Thank you, Audible. We all love a good story, but what we truly crave is a ghost story. It's time now for Ghost Stories with Sylvia. Sylvia Schultz is a librarian and author by day, but at night, she becomes a ghost hunter. Following a lifetime spent in the pursuit of the weird and the strange, her non-fiction works include Ghost of the Illinois River, Fractured Spirits, 44 Years in Darkness, Hunting Demons, and The Spirits of Christmas. We now cross over the veil and join Sylvia as she tells us more tales from the unknown. Sylvia, are you there?
Ron, hello. Come on in.
Oh, well, thank you. It's good to be back. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, boy. It is so wonderful to have company on such a cold, shivery evening. It's a perfect evening for ghost stories.
I have heard you guys have been getting some cold.
Oh my goodness, yes. My poor recycle bin was frozen to the ground. I just got it knocked loose today, so I have to take the recycling out on Thursday night, and now I can, and it's a good thing because it's full.
Well, I was watching the Packer game yesterday, and I know that's Wisconsin, but I felt for you during that whole game because I thought, man, if it's that cold in Wisconsin, I wonder what it's doing in Illinois.
Yeah, we've had some bitter cold in the past several weeks. Good soup weather.
Well, I can tell you that our weather here has been actually pretty exceptional. We're in kind of this, repeating non-rain, no snow, 40s, 50s.
Oh.
It's been pretty nice around here, and And they say we got about another week of it before we go back to our normal rainstorms.
Oh, gee whiz. I want to trade.
Yeah,
I'm gonna come and visit you next time.
It's been pretty incredible, I got to tell you. Very odd, very, very different.
It makes up for that beastly heat you had over the summer.
Oh my goodness. It's like a different world. I don't know. Now this all kind of feels normal because we do have, 50s in the winter. That's not that strange. But what is strange was, 117. We don't do that.
Yeah.
And
Just brutal.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. That is going to be I'm hoping that's like a 40-year event because that was just crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, how you doing, Sylvia?
I am doing fantastic. I have collected a couple of ghost stories for this episode, and I am just chomping at the bit to share them with people.
That's awesome. You know that we also today, we have not one, but 2 emails from the listeners today.
Oh, I love emails.
And the thing is, we haven't had any for a while. We've had the general, hey, I love the show, love ghost stories with Sylvia, but we haven't had questions.
Oh, questions are the best.
And today we do. Do you want to get started with that right now? Just delve into those?
Oh, sure. Let's do.
All right. Well, our first one comes from Marguerite Harvey, who is from Detroit, Michigan.
Aha.
Okay. Never been to Detroit. That's one city I can say I've never been to. Have you been there?
I have been near Detroit. Ages ago when I was a member of the Society for Creative Anachronism, we went to an event up there, and I do remember going to a winery very close to that area. I think that was Traverse City, Michigan, which I think is fairly close to Detroit, but I've never been to the actual city.
No, me either. I have been to Chicago. That's your neck of the woods, but
yes, it is.
Never been to Detroit. No offense to anyone from Detroit. It's not on my bucket list, but I've heard some great things about that city.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's get to Marguerite's message.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Hello, Ron and Sylvia. I love what you guys do, and your chemistry is oh so tranquilizing. I've never heard that word used in that form before.
I think that's brilliant, though.
It is. My mother is a paranormal nut and watches everything and anything on the subject. I'm worried that gives her a distorted view of the afterlife. I personally believe in the spirit world, but not sure that we can see it. Help me put these 2 extremes into some perspective. Is that even possible? All right, Sylvia, you begin this discussion.
Well, Marguerite, you bring up an excellent point. I mean, you can have 2 people in the same household that have very, very different outlooks on the afterlife. One can be rabid about it, and the other one can be kind of on the fence. I wouldn't worry about your mom getting a distorted view of the afterlife. It's from all of the reading I've done and all of the people I've talked to, it seems to me that the afterlife that we can look forward to is kind of made by our own expectations, if that makes sense. If we are looking forward to a heaven where you sit around on fluffy clouds and spend all your time in adoration, that's probably what you're going to experience. If you feel that you're going to go to the Summerlands and wander green verdant meadows with plashing brooks and see animals around, see your animal companions that you've loved and lost, that is what you can probably look forward to. So I don't think that your mom's being so intrigued by the paranormal is a bad thing, is what I'm trying to say. It's certainly not doing any harm. And as for your expectations of the paranormal, you're right. Most of the time we can't see it. Most of the time we can't experience it. Sometimes it leaks over into our world, and sometimes that's terrifying, and other times it's absolutely brilliant. It's just what you've experienced so far, so that is your expectation of it. And I really don't think that dichotomy, that push and pull between those two attitudes is bad. And I don't think it's something to be worried about either.
All right. Well, I'm going to take a different point of view.
Okay. I knew you would.
Well, I'm going to approach this from that I agree with her that I do think that watching everything and anything on this subject can give you a distorted view of the afterlife. And what I base that on is take your average ghost hunter show. Okay?
Okay.
That, to me, is a way distorted view of what the afterlife is all about. And I think that some of those shows, notice I almost said all, but some of those shows really do more harm than good. One, it makes people think that, oh, wow, this afterlife thing, they're just out to get us. They're going to kill us. They want us dead. It's all demonistic. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. And in reality, it isn't. That isn't what afterlife means. It is what happens to you when you're not here on this planet anymore. Your soul's moving on to a whole new existence.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you believe, although to some people that doesn't true. You can only believe one thing and that's it. And I think that a lot of those shows do a disservice. And I do worry about people that can't separate the two, the entertainment side of the paranormal from the reality side. That's why I love your ghost stories so much, Sylvia. Because you're not after this is horrible, look at these terrible things. You're always presenting it as is. This is what happened. And it's up to us to make sense of it.
Yeah, I think that's important. So let me get this straight. You're saying that if somebody is really into the paranormal shows, they might run the risk of forgetting that someday we will all be over on the other side.
Yeah, that's part of what I'm saying. Exactly. And I hate to see that. I don't even know the word for it, but I hate to see that.
Apprehension.
Yeah, because a lot of people are terrified of it. And so
I know.
And so they're, like take a person that is afraid of dying now because they saw something on a ghost hunter show that didn't sit well with them.
Ooh, that would be a problem.
Yeah. And so, yes, I do think, and Marguerite, I'm not trying to scare you here and say, hey, get your mother some help, because you have to kind of figure out, is my mother watching it for entertainment, or is there something more? Because I think if you realize it's like professional wrestling, right? I mean, nobody anymore believes that professional wrestling is real. It is adult entertainment. That's what it's meant to be. And people are saying, okay, we finally get it. It isn't real. There's nothing real about it. Well, once they did that, once they realized that they were watching actors, you get a whole new respect for what they're doing, number one, because they're so amazing at what they do. And they are incredibly good actors, which is why you see them on big screens now all over the place. It's because people are realizing what professional wrestling really is. Entertainment. And as long as you can accept what you're seeing is entertainment, I think it doesn't matter how much your mother is enjoying it. Because if that's what she's enjoying it for, great. But the other side of that is a possibility too. And as long as that's not the case, I see no harm in it.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy, actually.
Yeah, I hope so. I came up with that all by myself. I don't know. Do you think that helps you, Marguerite? Let us know.
I hope so.
Shall we move on to our second email?
Yeah, let's do.
All right. We have an email from Virgil Harrison, who lives in Arlington, Virginia. Now, I can honestly say I've never been to Virginia, so I have no input. But I've heard Arlington is a beautiful city.
I'm sure it is. I've read lots about it, and it sounds beautiful. I mean, that was the home of Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I've also heard through the grapevine that there are a lot of great haunted places in Arlington, Virginia.
There are a lot of great haunted places in Virginia in general, but yes, especially in Arlington.
Yep. I have heard some crazy stories. I've read some crazy ghost stories from there. And I know we've had quite a few, especially from, is there a big plantation or am I thinking of somewhere else in Virginia?
No, you are. You are. That was Robert E. Lee's home. And then his property was confiscated by the North and became Arlington National Cemetery.
That's right.
Yes, but the mansion is still standing, and that has become a historic home. And yeah, there are plenty of ghost stories. I'm reminded of one of two women who came on Veterans Day, I believe, to visit the National Cemetery and ended up going through the mansion, and they were all alone in the mansion. There weren't any more tours going through, and they witnessed a full body apparition in one of the museum rooms of a woman in period dress lighting a candle, and she was beyond the velvet rope, and she turned out not to be an actual museum guide or anything at all. She was an actual apparition, so that was super fun.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Shall we listen to Virgil's email?
Okay.
All right, here it is. Ron, I think your show is amazing. See how I did that? My favorite segments are These Are Your Stories and Ghost Stories with Sylvia. Nice job, Sylvia.
Yay!
How do you come up with this stuff? Amazing. One thing that you've never talked about on the creepy scale is the Slender Man, a truly modern myth. Slender Man started online as part of a competition to Photoshop pictures to include a supernatural element. User Victor Surge added a suited, faceless, unnaturally tall figure into a black and white photos, which were copied and distributed virally over the internet. The rest is history. What do you think? And could you ask Sylvia too? I can do that, Virgil. So I'm going to start this off and say I'm going to take this in a different way. I'm hoping you're talking urban legends in general, because I don't know a whole lot about the Slender Man. I know it was a big deal and people have been citing it. But so my question is, are they doing that because of the fact that this thing went viral, or is there really a Slender Man out there? I don't know that. But I'm suspecting that, as with all urban legends, there's a kernel of truth in all of them. Every one of them. I don't care if it's the claw on the trunk or the one that you love, the bridge one.
Oh, well, there's...
What's the one, though, that you love, the baby in the bridge or something like that? Or
I wouldn't say that's my favorite, but Crybaby Bridges, you can find a
Bridges.
Crybaby Bridge in just about every state in the nation. My goodness, yeah. And they're usually, like you say, urban legends. There's usually not any historical basis for any of this stuff at all.
I guess what makes the Slender Man so unique is it started out as a competition, as opposed to most are stories that were told, retold again, told again. New communities adopt it, and it becomes their story. Other communities hear about it, and they adopt it, and it becomes their story, and so forth and so on, and it rolls down like Crybaby Bridge. I know there must be, hundreds of iterations of that story?
Yeah. Yeah, easily. So, yeah, and you're right. That's what makes Slender Man a little bit different, is, like you said, all these other urban legends kind of came about by accident. But the Slender Man mythos was created on purpose. It was a creepypasta thing that, it started off as a competition, and it sort of took on a life of its own, which is what I wanted to bring to the conversation here. The character of Slender Man has captured people's imagination so much that Slender Man was actually accused of a crime. There was a stabbing in Wisconsin.
I heard about
in
that.
2014. Yeah, May 31st, 2014, in Waukesha, Wisconsin. There were a couple of 12-year-old girls, Anissa Wire and Morgan Geyser, who had a friend named Peyton Leutner. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, forgive me. And they lured their friend into a forest and stabbed her 19 times.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they did that is because they wanted to get this fictional character's approval. They wanted to get Slender Man's approval. They wanted to be his disciples. Now, Peyton survived, which is good, but the fact remains that this fictional character was the impetus behind this crime that happened. I've heard a lot of people say that they've seen Slender Man, and not only in Wisconsin, just all over the place. What I think has happened with Slender Man is that his influence has become so pervasive online and through word of mouth that he has become something that we in the paranormal community call a tulpa.
Oh,
or a
sure.
thought form.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, I honestly believe that is what happened, that this energy that has been expended on thinking about Slender Man and hoping to see Slender Man around a dark corner has created a tulpa.
I think that makes a great amount of sense.
Yeah.
Something else that he has done. Are you familiar with folklore?
Oh, yes. Love it.
And folklore has always been the fairies of Inverness. These great stories that have been passed down for generations and generations and generations.
Yeah.
What I think is happening now with Slender Man is a brand new form of digital folklore. Something
that is fascinating.
It is something completely new, and the way that it can transmit itself is so different from anything. It isn't passed down from history, historical, whatever. It is something that is viral and alive in our world. And so it does have a life in the digital world. Is that weird and out there?
Well, it's supposed to be. It is weird and out there because it is weird and out there. That makes perfect sense. And yeah, that's what folklore is becoming. Folklore evolves with us. I mean, it's a very human thing to create these stories, and yeah, it evolves right along with us.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, take vampires. How many stories have been told about vampires since Bram Stoker came up with the whole thing?
Hundreds.
And today there are people that practice being a vampire. They live the lifestyle of a vampire.
They do.
And so I just think that this is a logical progression of folklore.
I agree.
Digital folklore. That's what I call it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I don't know if that was the discussion that you were hoping for. We can look at this again, but he asked what we thought, and he wanted me to ask you too. I think we did those two things.
I think we did. I think we nailed it.
All right. So we are here for Ghost Stories with Sylvia. Is that right?
It is.
Now, what would we be without Ghost Stories?
Just hanging out with Sylvia, which is fun in its own way, but it's always better with ghost stories.
That's right. So I'm going to tell you, I'm telling the audience now, the listeners, I'm telling you guys, here's what happened. I was sitting there thinking, what do we want to do for the next Ghost Stories with Sylvia? And I thought about all the shows we've done, and I thought the one thing that we haven't done is talk about historical ghosts. And then I thought, and something else we've never talked about? Celebrity ghosts.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening, and this was completely by accident, I ended up going out and finding 2 historical ghost stories. And Sylvia, tell them what you did.
Well, again, just happenstance, I went out and sought out a couple of celebrity ghost stories.
So what we have are 2 historical ghost stories and 2 celebrity ghost stories. So here's my proposal. How about we do these in order, and I'll do historical, and then you'll do a celebrity.
That works for me.
Until we've made it through the list.
Okay.
Well, my first one is really, really, really short. Okay. And it comes from the White House. Now, those of you who aren't familiar with the White House, that happens to be where the President of the United States lives.
Really?
Yeah. And it's right there on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, right there in Washington, D.C. How about that?
Wow. It's a good place for the president to live.
Yeah, and it's also a great place for ghost stories. Who knew?
Oh, boy.
So I picked one really short one. Would you like to hear it?
I would.
Okay. The ghost of Lincoln was frequently seen during the administration of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now, just to remind you that while he was president, we were going through a devastating depression, and then to top off the depression, we ended up in World War II.
Yeah.
Okay? So, during that time frame, Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands was a guest at the White House. She was awakened one night by a knock on her bedroom door. Thinking that it might be an important message, she got up and opened the door. Standing there was top-hatted figure of President Lincoln standing in the hallway. The Queen fainted right then and there.
Oh.
When she came to, she was lying on the floor. The apparition had vanished. Eleanor Roosevelt used Lincoln's bedroom as her study. Although she denied ever seeing the former president, she admitted to feeling his presence whenever she worked late at night. She thought he was standing over her, peering over her shoulder. How about that?
That is marvelous.
I don't know who Queen Wilhelmina was, but I'm assuming that some sort of dignitary at the time there.
Right. You're not going to mention Winston Churchill?
Well, no. Oh, the naked, yeah. We'll save that one for another time, but real briefly.
Okay.
He was taking a bath one time, and he was visited by Lincoln. And while smoking a cigar, and he looked up at Lincoln and said, "Sir, you have me at a disadvantage."
I love that.
Yep. That is a great story. Lincoln, I think there's a lot of ghost stories. We could do an entire ghost stories with Sylvia on Lincoln's ghosts.
Yeah, we could.
All right, Sylvia, what do you have in the world of celebrities?
Okay, well, my first celebrity ghost story is one of a celebrity ghost sighting, the ghost of a celebrity. This comes from Los Angeles, California. Bob Slatzer, a journalist, was walking through the lobby of 20th Century Fox Studios one summer day in 1946 when he struck up a conversation with a pretty girl. She told him her name was Norma Jean Baker. The friendship that began that day lasted until August 4th, 1962. By that time, Norma Jean had transformed herself into the Hollywood superstar Marilyn Monroe. And on August 4th, 1962, she died of an overdose of barbiturates. Slatzer mourned his friend's death, but believed that her spirit was still around him. And in 1973, he participated in an experiment that brought Marilyn's spirit back for just a brief moment. Slatzer was also friends with Anton LaVey, author of the Satanic Bible.
Oh, dear.
He discovered, interesting circles this fellow ran in.
Yeah.
He discovered that LaVey was fascinated with Marilyn Monroe. One night, LaVey told Slatzer that on August 4th, the 11th anniversary of Marilyn's death, an astrological dark moon would occur. I don't know if that means the dark of the moon, an opposite of the full moon. I don't know what that means exactly.
I think it's when there's none in the sky, but
That must be the dark of the
Yeah.
moon. It's got to be. So LaVey wanted to use this to make Marilyn's spirit manifest, and he needed someone who really had known the actress in life to help him. So Slatzer agreed to go along with this experiment. The two men, with Mrs. LaVey in the back seat, drove to the house in Brentwood where Marilyn had lived. They parked in the cul-de-sac outside the locked gate that led to the home. It had been sold over the years, so they couldn't actually get into the home. So they parked as close as they could. At around 11:45 p.m., LaVey started a tape running with songs from Marilyn's movies. Kind of a trigger object there. Meanwhile, Slatzer was looking around the cul-de-sac. No one was in sight, and the night was perfectly still, without a breath of wind. LaVey had written down some sort of chant and was reading it aloud by the soft glow of a penlight. By 12:15 a.m., nothing had happened. All of a sudden, the leaves of the eucalyptus tree at the corner of the house began to toss, the branches flailing as if buffeted by high winds. The tree shook for 3 or 4 minutes, while everything else remained completely still. Then, from nowhere, a woman appeared. Slatzer claimed that one moment she wasn't there, and the next moment she was. She wore white slacks, a black and white patterned top, and white loafers. Wavy, platinum blonde hair crowned her head. The woman started to walk slowly towards the car, stopping about 30 feet away. The LaVeys kind of lost it. Anton LaVey was absolutely stunned and sweating heavily. He could not believe that he had actually managed to manifest the ghost of Marilyn Monroe. And Mrs. LaVey was white with shock and fear.
Wow.
Everyone in the car knew they were looking at the late Marilyn Monroe. The ghost clasped her hands in front of her and seemed to look past the car. It was as if she wanted to go through the gates and go up to her own house, but didn't want to go past the car. So she eventually turned to her left and started to walk down the street. Now, Slatzer was watching her go, and he just couldn't stand it anymore. He had to get out and talk to his dear friend one more time. He wrenched his door open, got out, and started to follow the ghost. But as he came closer to her, she turned and then vanished.
Why do ghosts do that?
I know, right? Someone's wanting to talk to you. Go and have a conversation.
Oh, I hate that.
Gee, yeah.
That story could have been so much more.
I know. Breaks my heart.
What a great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I love it. All right.
Thank you.
Here's my next historical story.
Okay.
Well, we talked about the White House, right?
Yes.
Well, did you know that the White House was built in 1792?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the problem with that. George Washington was our first president, so his administration started before the White House was built.
That's right. He was not, he never lived in the White House. That was John Adams, I believe, was the first president to live in the White House.
So here we are. Where did George Washington live? Well, he lived in Mount Vernon.
Aha.
And this story comes from Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington. Okay? Now, in the early years of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association, they often slept in the mansion after large gatherings. One of the rooms that were open to them was one particular bedroom. Do you think you could guess whose bedroom that might have been?
Oh, it must have been George's.
It was. And in that bedroom was a 4-postered bed whereon he passed his last moments here on earth.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah. The following account was reported in the New York World newspaper circa 1890, and it refers to George Washington's bedroom.
Nice.
You ready?
Yes.
This historic chamber is haunted. Of that, there would seem to be little doubt. Many people within recent years have slept in it, and they will declare that they were awed by the viewlessness presence of the nation's first presidents. They deny earnestly that notion is based on imagination. Few of these temporary occupants have been able to get any sleep. Obviously, it's one thing to see a ghost and quite another to feel one, to be aware of the nearness of a strange and brooding specter. They all agree that Washington visits his chamber in the still watches of the night. Mrs. William Beale and a friend of hers spent the night at Mount Vernon. At their own request, they were permitted to occupy Washington's bedroom. In the middle of the night, they were awakened by the sputtering of their candle. They had lit one surreptitiously and were burning it in the middle of a basin of water. They both watched the candle as it went out with a pop, and they began to feel alarmed. Mrs. Beale said to her friend, "You know, you're on the side where Washington died." The other replied, "No, I'm not. He died on your side."
I can just imagine that conversation.
Finally, they decided that the question was dubious and that there was no more sleep for them that night. They got up, dressed themselves, and sat around until morning, scared at every squeak of the windows, and at one moment they were sure they heard Washington's sword clank distinctively in a corner. Another account occurred in 2012. It's a little more recent.
Ooh. Yeah.
A member of the Mount Vernon Security Department recalls this unexplainable activity. "My first experience with something that I can't explain occurred in the mansion during the early years of the candlelight tour." Now, I looked that up, and I guess what they do is they actually take candlelight and walk through the entire house and do the tour that way. The event took place on the anniversary of George Washington's death around 10:30 p.m. After the house had been cleared, I locked myself in. It was my responsibility to check the alarms for their proper positioning. When I was in the mansion study, I heard a heavy set of keys being walked across the floor in Washington's bedroom directly above. As I approached the back stairs to go up to Washington's bedroom, the sound of the keys abruptly stopped. Historical note: General Washington was well known for his heavy set of keys and that they could be heard as he walked through the house.
Nice.
Tobias Lear, the general's secretary, was known to have taken the keys from the general's pocket upon his death and turned them over to his enslaved manservant. That concludes my George Washington historical event.
Interesting that he didn't give them to Martha.
I don't write this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Those were corkers. Those are great.
Yeah. They actually, the newspaper one, it was actually in the New York World newspaper. And the other one I found on the website, I guess you call it Vacation Guide.
Ah, okay.
There's one for ghost hunters and there's one for the general public.
Oh, I see. Fun. Yeah, that newspaper article was great. They really knew how to write back then. Boy,
is a direct, everything I read was directly from the original clipping.
Neat.
Yeah, pretty neat stuff, huh?
Oh, can you imagine sleeping overnight at Mount Vernon in George Washington's bed? That would be so cool.
And then arguing about what side he died on.
That's what tickled me. Oh, my goodness.
You're on the side where George Washington died. No, I'm not. You are.
Oh, that is precious.
All right, Sylvia, what's our next story?
Okay, so my first story was the ghost sighting of a celebrity, and the second one is a celebrity seeing a ghost.
Okay.
Okay, so this story comes to us from the Mackey Mansion in Virginia City, Nevada. It was built by Hearst in 1859, And this was a place that was owned by one of the silver barons of Nevada. The Comstock lode was discovered at that point in the 19th century, and it made a few people very, 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 very rich. John Mackey bought the mansion in 1875 and lived there for 20 years. And it is now a museum, and also you can stay overnight at the mansion. So Johnny Depp was staying in the mansion in 1995. He was working on shooting the film Dead Man. And Depp was actually sleeping in John Mackey's room up on the 3rd floor. Now, he and his crew were supposed to be at the mansion for an entire month. Johnny Depp lasted 3 days. On the 3rd night, he woke up to the ghost of a little girl in a white nightgown jumping up and down on his bed. So he scrambled out of the bed and ran outside. And when his crew members met him out there, he made them go back in and get his things, because he noped out of there so quickly that he didn't grab anything of his, and he was not about to go back into that room.
Wow.
So who was this little girl ghost that Johnny Depp saw? The theory is that it is the ghost of a little girl named Emma. She was the daughter of a servant at the mansion who Emma died at age 4, possibly from tuberculosis. There is a historical record of a young girl at the mansion that did have TB. Also, people who go into her room experience tightness in their chest and they start to cough. So
wow,
that is one of our paranormal clues that she probably perished of tuberculosis.
All right, so we're talking Johnny Depp here. The man who played Jack Sparrow, not to mention Edward Scissorhands. And I don't know how many other creepy roles the man has done.
He was in Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, he was. And he booked it out of there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yes, he did.
Well, kudos to Johnny Depp. I would have been way out of there before he even thought about leaving. At least he made it 3 nights, right?
Right,
That's pretty incredible. Wow, that's a great story. Those were all great stories.
They were. I have had a blast.
I have enjoyed everything that we've done today.
Yes, I have too.
So for right now, I'm going to say that it is time for Sylvia's blog.
Yes, the infamous Today I Learned.
All right, so here it is, folks. This is Sylvia's blog. More people die every year of constipation than from shark attacks. Sylvia, where do you come up with these great facts?
I read voraciously and omnivorously, and I pick up these weird facts all over the place, and I just have to share them with somebody, and I share them with people on my blog.
So how do you die of constipation in the first place?
Oh man, that's probably that's a question you can't that's an answer you can't unhear.
All right, well, so then let's not go there, and just say kudos to the sharks for being less of a killer.
Right? Yeah. You're safer with a shark.
Well, Sylvia, so we're getting towards that time on the wall there that says we're running out of time. But we have to talk about the podcast. And a little bird told me that you still have a few calendars and it's still January.
That's true. Yes. If you are still looking at your 2021 calendar, it is high time to get a 2022 Days of the Dead calendar.
And tell them a little bit about the calendar.
All right. Well, as you well know, I have a new book out called Days of the Dead, A Year of True Ghost Stories. And I decided to pull 12 of those stories out and put them on a calendar. So if you go to sylviaschultz.wordpress.com and click on the Contact Me button at the top of the page, you can get your very own calendar. And here's something cool. If you go ahead and order a calendar from me, come closer when you order, whisper in my ear, and tell me of a special date in the year that has meaning for you. It could be your birthday. It could be the day you went to the prom and met your future spouse. It could be the day you brought your fur baby home. Whatever day is special and important to you, tell me about it, and I will write something special on your calendar just for you.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Would you write it on September 14th?
September 14th. You bet I would.
All right. Well, I am going to get one and have you write it on September 14th.
Okay.
And I'll tell you off air why September 14th.
Okay.
Okay.
That is fair enough. I gotcha.
All right. So if Sylvia, you've got your blog, you've got the podcast, you've got these calendars, but it does us no good if we don't know how to get a hold of you. Where do we get all this cool stuff?
All these goodies can be found at sylviaschultz.wordpress.com.
Okay. And what can we expect when we get there? What kinds of things do we find on that site?
Oh boy, there is a tab at the top of the page called Lights Out, where you can listen to episodes of my podcast. All the links on that page go to the YouTube version of the podcast, which is where you find the pretty pictures.
Okay, what else?
Oh man, there's several years worth of Today I Learned if you go back far enough. Every Monday I post a weird little fact called Today I Learned, and those
we heard one today.
Show up on Mondays. And yeah, I have been doing this for 5 years, quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Well, something that people may not realize, but a few of your books, you have evidence of the stories that you tell in those books, and you can go to Sylvia's website. And after you've read the book or while you're reading the book, you can there'll be a little ghost thing there and you click on that. And next thing you know, you're going to be able to find out, see the evidence, whether it was video, photographic, or whatever. You can see it right there on our website. It is a plethora of cool, ghosty stuff at her website.
Absolutely.
All right, Sylvia. Well, we have put together another podcast, I think.
I think we have. I think we've done a crackerjack job.
I think so. Do you have anything that you want to say to the listeners as the music chimes us out?
Oh, stay warm, stay safe, and stay spooky.
I concur. Ghost Stories with Sylvia was brought to you by Gladys Goodies. I always have a great time talking with Sylvia, and I learn all kinds of new stuff. If you want to visit her on her home turf, head to sylviaschultz.wordpress.com. There you will find her blog and access to the podcast Lights Out. I will have links available in the show notes. Thank you, Sylvia. Gladys Goodies treats are a 100% natural, nutrient-rich treat that pets love to eat. You can get your treats and some really cool swag for your dog and cat at GladysGoodies.com. And don't forget to use our very own promo code RONS. That's RONS. And you'll get a 20% discount on all of your purchases. That website again is GladysGoodies.com. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Ghost Stories with Sylvia. Well, that was episode number 527, and I want to thank my friend and fellow podcaster, Sylvia Schultz. It's so much fun doing these ghost stories with Sylvia, and I really think we should do a show on Abraham Lincoln. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button makes us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.